Oh, there. Yeah, looks good. Hi, everybody. It is the Halley Quynh show where we hop on live and we talk about all the things related to self-love, healing, transformation, all of that. And what's coming up for us today to discuss is that when we take responsibility for our emotions, it invites deeper relationships that can last in your life. Many of us have had friendship breakups, breakups in general. And that doesn't feel good. So how can we have less of that? So we're going to get into discussion about that. Hi, Katrina. Hi to all the replay viewers. No filter this time. No mustache this time. If you watched our last live, there was a mustache filter that I accidentally clicked on. And we proceeded with the live, not knowing about it until later. It was really good. For a good laugh, yeah, watch the replay of our last one. So anyway, so Halley, my dear. So what comes up with you when this comes up? I mean, we were literally just talking about this earlier.
Yes.
But why do you believe taking ownership, or what's the benefits of taking ownership of our own emotions, and how has that translated into your relationships, whether it's friendship or romantic? What's coming up for you right now when that crosses your mind?
Well, I think the first step is just identifying that everything that we feel is our own experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Our
own experience. Everything that we feel is our own experience and our own interpretation of reality. Which isn't to say that it's accurate, you know? And it's also everything that we feel is generally a ripple from the past. And the past can be as far back as age 0.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So just an acknowledgement that all of our feelings are rooted in the past, our own version of reality, legit, you know?
Yeah.
And beautiful and worthy of being felt. But I think that how it feels generally when we're feeling something strong that relates to another person is that it's because of them that we're feeling a certain way, and that they did something to us to make us feel a certain way. And then so when you're it's time to process or have a confrontation, the tendency is to blame from that place.
Totally.
And no one likes feeling blamed, and no one likes feeling responsible for someone else's emotions. That will immediately put the other person into defense or shut down or to get triggered themselves, you know? And so it's kind of to just avoid that happening, to really own the fact that everything that you feel is yours.
Yeah, it relates to your own personal pain.
Your own personal pain, your own personal story. And that your feelings deserve your attention first. Before you bring them to anyone else, they deserve your attention first.
I love how you put that.
We just did a meditation where we just went into our hearts and identified how we were feeling and what our primary feelings were of the day. And then we asked them what they needed. And then we gave what they needed a mantra, and then assigned that mantra to our breath so that we could breathe in the thing that our emotion needed. So we practiced what it's like to actually take care, identify your emotion, figure out what it needs, and then tend to it.
Yes. Oh.
And if we did that every time we were having a big hard feeling that involved someone else before we bring it to them, it would just be a game changer for all of our relationships. Because we answered our own call, you know? So anyways, it's just this work that we have to do collectively to unravel codependency. You know, it's time for codependency to break down and be done. But it's the work is very personal for that.
Yeah, it is. And love how you just navigated through literally the process of what it looks like to take ownership of your emotions. And here's the thing, we've already experienced what it's like not taking care of it. And that is often blaming other people. And we don't realize that we're doing this, but if you take a look back at either your current or past relationships, whether it's a friendship or like a romantic one, how many times did you argue? And how many times were you expecting the other person to take ownership of something, right? It's like we're depending on other people to own up, versus taking a look inward and say, you know what? Where are these emotions coming from? Am I expecting someone to heal it right now? Or can I actually do something about my emotions? And so if we want longer lasting, fulfilling relationships, I don't see that happening if we're not stepping into ownership of our feelings, because there's so many times where we paint up onto other people and we project it onto other people, and that's where the arguments are, and often those arguments break it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's built up so big and and it's to the point where there's too many hurtful things said to each other, too many hurtful things done to each other, that there's like you can't recover from it or something, and that's when the breakup really happens. And but we've all been through that. And depending where you are right now, I mean, we are all about the self-love journey and providing a safe space to do so. It's really the time, an opportunity to reflect back and learn from it. I know that I've pain projected onto people, and I didn't even know that I was doing it.
I know, it's so unconscious.
It feels so personal.
It feels so personal. You feel so justified.
Yes.
You really feel like this person is intentionally causing you harm.
Yes.
And that you have to stand up for yourself and speak your truth and do the whole thing. But like speaking your truth is owning your own feelings and expressing them from a place of full ownership.
Yes.
I think the other thing that happens all the freaking time in relationships, it's like kind of like where a lot of our problems stem from, is that we have an idea of what we want someone to be for us. It's expectations. We have this like vision of like what we want our partner to do and how we want them to behave and how we want them to show up and what we think we deserve, and like, do their behaviors, are they in alignment with what we deserve? And so we like paint these pictures of these like false versions of the person that we're actually intimately involved with.
Yes.
And then when they can't be that thing that we want them to be, we feel let down and disappointed and hurt when they're just being who they are.
Yes.
And like sometimes that means that you're actually just not as compatible as you wish that you were, and it's like you're not in alignment and your paths do need to go different ways. And other times it's just getting really real of the person who's actually in front of you and like loving them as they are and accepting them as they are, instead of wanting them to be this other thing and then being in a chronic cycle of disappointment and then projecting your blame and disappointment onto that person because they're not who you want them to be. It's just not productive.
Yeah, not productive at all. And when you were speaking about like how where we were basically waiting for this person to morph into the false reality that we have created about them. This imagery. Yeah. And you guys already know, how did that pan out? And it's so crazy that we do this, but looking back at our actions and the ways that we've navigated through like projecting our pains onto other people or attempting to communicate with other people, oftentimes when we expect someone to do something, it's because we're not feeling good about ourselves and we're not really giving the opportunity for ourselves to grow. Yeah, it's like we're avoiding growth because it's scary and it's the unknown. No one teaches us how to grow from the inside. Like I just think about this message of like helping others. Like the message is always like help others, and we forget about ourselves. So we know that's scary to step into inner growth, and that's why we are in the work that we do. And just from our own personal experiences, we just know that for the inner work to happen, you are inviting and you're making space to actually include people in your life, and you can actually like accept people. When we're not in that world of working on that, we're excluding people. We don't even know it, but we're including people, but then we're excluding them because we're not really actually accepting them. We're just expecting them to be a certain way. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us are pretty good about accepting people as they are in the friendship realm. It's easier to do with our friends because they don't necessarily trigger our deepest wounding.
It's usually the more intimate partners.
It's the more intimate, romantic, sexual partners that like bring us so close to our woundedness.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard. That's why it's like just so hard to unconditionally accept our romantic counterpart as they are. You know, so that it's just something to really keep in mind, that like the more intimate the relationship, the harder this actually is, and the more it requires of you to be really conscious. You know, because when we're in our wounded places, we go unconscious and we behave in ways that like we aren't proud of.
Yes.
You know, because we're acting from like such a tender, hurt place, but like with the layers of protection on top of that. And so a lot of the work is like allowing yourself to just like get to that hurt place and feel that hurt place and be with that hurt place and hold that hurt place.
Yeah.
And like love on that hurt place, so that when you come to your person, you've already like mama or papa like the little child in there that's really hurting, you know?
Right? And you're not going to take what they're doing to offense and like personally, like, oh my God, everyone's attacking you. Everyone's trying to bring you down. Yeah. It's like that's what it feels like to take responsibility for your own emotions. You're not taking everything to offense and as personally. Before we end this talk, we love it that you guys are all here. Please leave a comment down below what's coming up for you as far as like healthy relationships and involving taking ownership of your emotions. What is something that you've experienced that you've seen work with your relationships, whether it's romantic or friendship? Because I feel like you've had these long-lasting friendships, or even the new ones that you've met. There's like this depth, and you've had a lot of like awesome conversations with friends. And just from my experience with you, if you didn't take ownership for your own, the friends that you have wouldn't possibly be here today.
It's really true. And I think that like one thing I want to say is that for people who are really like afraid of conflict and their own anger, which is how I have been in my past, and I'm like still like really learning how to grow through. This is the responsibility that I've had to take more recently, is like I've had to take responsibility for my anger. So when someone has done something that has felt really hurtful and I have felt hurt and it has made me feel angry, like having the courage to say like that made me angry. Like I felt anger when that happened. Like it was really scary for me. So it's like there are going to be emotions, like sadness is easier for me because I have a lot of experience with it. It's just been kind of my MO to feel a little sad. But these like more fiery emotions have been harder for me to own. And so I just think that like for everyone, there's going to be the ones that come a little easier and a little bit more naturally to take ownership of. And then there's going to be the ones that are like scary based on your personal history with those emotions. And that's the growth edge, is to like go into those places where you're like, oh shit, to like have to tell my friend that like I have anger based on what just happened. Like it's been hard, but also really cool and really strengthening for the relationships.
Yes. You literally remind me of something that happened last night. Oh my God. I had to sit in my feelings, and anger did show up. And then tears were coming, and I was totally aware that they were coming, and I felt very victim in that moment. But however, I let myself release and spend some time by myself, and it was like as if it didn't even happen. But you guys, when an old wounding pops up, let's just say you were looking at a video and it brought up like emotions because of the subject or whatnot. When you notice that your heart is very sensitive, that is a sign that we need to like literally pause, because something is about to come up. And if we're in an environment that, how would I say it? When you're super sensitive, that might be the sign to kind of like step out, like pause for a second, because anything that's going on, maybe there's other people in the room or something, it might heighten that wounding. But that's an example of taking care of your emotions too, like noticing as it's coming up, you're like, oh shit, because when I'm sensitive and I'm hurt, it's really easy to take everything personal right now. And we really need to pause button. Heart, what's going on?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because this literally happened last night, but yeah.
Because like that's the way that, like, sometimes that hurt or that pain or that trigger, that sensitivity, it kind of like creeps in. Like, you get triggered and you aren't even like cognizant of the fact that you were triggered.
Yeah.
You know, but you just start to feel a little off, and then it like kind of like builds in you, and there's this like moment of like crossroads where you can either like distract from the pain and like get involved with something and whatever, go to an unhealthy coping mechanism, or you can just like go into it, feel it, cry it out, breathe with it, you know? And that choice is like, it's so pivotal, and it's like a really great moment when you're like, oh, I have, like, this is something that wants to be felt because it's here.
Yes.
And to choose that option is to choose healing and to choose repair and to choose self-love. And it's like, that's great.
Yeah.
And then once you go there, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and I feel so much better.
Yes, I literally had like a transformation. Like, I want to say fairly like 20 to 30 minutes, but I had to go there and feel it. And then I was like, man. And basically my pain had to do with not being chosen. I know you can relate with this, you know, and so with any past circumstance, like past stuff that comes up, like I felt that last night. And I found myself like not wanting to talk about it anymore, because that's how much pain that's built up from just feeling not being chosen, that there's someone else, you know. And I let myself get teary-eyed and whatnot. I even felt angry. I felt like, like pissed off, like, you know, like I don't want anyone around me right now. But I continued. I was video editing actually, but I continued to do what I was doing. And then something funny happened, and then I was like, oh, I'm fine. That was something from the past. It moved. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can help your pain be released and processed, you know. So yeah. Oh yes, all the pains, guys. We want to thank everyone for hopping on. If you just jumped on, press the replay. We're always here to support you along your journey. We do monthly workshops. Click the Self-Love Exodus page to stay tuned for our next one. We're hosting one tonight, and it is sold out. So we will see you next week. And make sure you like our Self-Love Exodus for all the updates and all the things that we're offering related to self-love and healing. All right. See you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.